Fear is the greatest thief of human destiny. It steals silently, not by force, but by persuasion, by whispering doubt into the heart until the individual accepts limitation as truth. Every man is born with potential so vast that even he cannot measure it, yet fear convinces him that he is smaller than he is, weaker than he could be, and less worthy than his dreams demand. If one would rise to the heights of success, he must first confront the silent enemy that lives within. To have no fear is not to live recklessly, but to live courageously, deliberately, and in harmony with a deeper power that shapes all progress. Fear is a liar. It presents illusions as reality, possibilities as dangers, and opportunities as threats. It builds walls where doors could stand, and it clouds the mind with shadows that disappear the moment one steps forward. The man who bows to fear lives half a life, a mere fraction of what he was designed to experience. But the man who conquers fear, who rises above its illusions, discovers that the world bends before his will. For fear is not an obstacle placed by fate, it is a challenge placed by life to test the strength of one's belief. Every accomplishment begins with the decision to silence fear. Before wealth comes, before influence grows, before personal greatness unfolds, there must be a moment when a man stands firm and declares that fear will no longer dictate his choices. The internal declaration is far more powerful than any external action, for it reshapes the aura, reorders the mind, and awakens an inner force that had long been sleeping. When a person decides to have no fear, he becomes a master of himself. And the man who masters himself becomes the master of his destiny. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but certainty can be chosen. One need not wait for perfect assurance from the outside world, he must generate it from within. Certainty is born from faith, clarity of vision, and conviction. When a person knows who he is and what he seeks, fear has no place to root itself. Clarity shines like a torch in the dark corridors of doubt, revealing that the obstacles one imagined were nothing more than shadows of hesitation. Fear weakens the aura, diminishing the magnetism that draws opportunities toward the individual. A fearful mind repels success, for success demands boldness, confidence, and decisive action. The universe responds not to the timid vibration of fear, but to the commanding presence of courage. When your aura radiates strength, life opens pathways that were invisible before. People sense confidence, they trust it, follow it, and support it. But fear communicates instability, sending a message that you are not ready, and life, respecting your signal, withholds the abundance that awaits the courageous. One must understand that fear is not an external force attacking from outside, but an internal barrier produced by one's own thoughts. Thoughts carry power. They shape the aura, influence emotion, and create the foundation upon which actions are built. A mind filled with fear cannot build anything of lasting value, for fear disrupts focus, robs energy, and kills initiative. But a mind trained to reject fear becomes unstoppable. It becomes a forge of ideas, a generator of inner strength, and a magnet to prosperity. Have no fear, for life never rewards the timid. The world has been shaped by those who dared to push forward when others hesitated. Every empire, every invention, every fortune ever built began with courage, often in the face of discouragement, mockery, or impossible odds. Greatness does not belong to the fearless by nature, only to those who confront their fears and act regardless. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is mastery over it. It is the decision that something greater than fear deserves your loyalty. Fear is strongest when the mind is idle. It feeds on inaction, grows in silence, and multiplies when you do nothing. But when you move, when you take decisive steps, fear weakens. Action dissolves fear like light dissolves darkness. The man who waits until he feels confident will wait forever. The man who moves despite doubt discovers that confidence is created in motion. Life leans toward those who act. Destiny favors those who advance. The aura of the courageous expands with every action, becoming a beacon that draws success closer and closer until it becomes inevitable. Fear also diminishes when vision grows. A man without a vision is easily intimidated by obstacles, for he sees only the immediate challenge, not the greater purpose behind his journey. But the man with a vision feels compelled by a destiny larger than any fear. When vision becomes clear and compelling, fear becomes small and irrelevant. It loses its power because the mind becomes fixed on the reward, not the risk. A clear vision energizes the aura, sharpens focus, and transforms hesitation into determination. Gratitude, too, dissolves fear. A grateful mind recognizes that life has already delivered blessings, opportunities, and strengths that once seemed impossible. Gratitude shifts focus from lack to plenty, from doubt to possibility. When you appreciate what you have, you signal to the universe that you are ready for more. Gratitude expands the aura, strengthening its radiance and diminishing the influence of fear. It turns anxiety into trust, weakness into confidence, and worry into peaceful expectation. Fear often masks itself as logic. It disguises itself with excuses that appear reasonable. It's not the right time. I don't have enough. What if I fail? These are not truths. They are fear wearing the mask of caution. But real caution is based on wisdom, not paralysis. Fear-based caution restricts growth. Wisdom-based caution guides growth. The difference is clear. Fear stops you. Wisdom directs you. And the man who learns to distinguish the two becomes unstoppable. Have no fear, for fear itself is an illusion, a phantom that cannot harm you unless you empower it. When confronted boldly, fear melts. When examined closely, it becomes insignificant. When challenged repeatedly, it disappears. The man who repeatedly chooses courage rewires his mind, reshapes his belief system, and transforms his identity. He becomes a person for whom fear no longer dictates decisions. He becomes a creator, a builder, a leader, one who influences the world rather than being shaped by it. Life always rises to meet the courageous. Challenges become stepping stones. Delays transform into lessons. Setbacks turn into setups for greater victories. To move forward without fear is to trust that life is conspiring in your favor. Every great achievement in history emerged from this trust. Fear has never built anything. Fear has never inspired anyone. Fear has never opened doors, created opportunity, or produced innovation. But courage has done all these things and more. Courage is the currency of destiny. Fear loses its grip when you understand your own power. You are not a passive being tossed by circumstances. You are a creator, sculpting your reality with thought, belief, and action. The aura responds to how you see yourself. If you view yourself as weak, you radiate weakness. If you see yourself as powerful, you radiate strength. Others respond accordingly. Life responds accordingly. When you embody power, fear has no place to live. To have no fear is to walk in alignment with your highest self. It is to trust that within you lies everything required to build the future you desire. It is to understand that potential is not something you earn. It is something you awaken. Courage is the key to awakening it. Each time you silence fear, you unlock a new dimension of your strength, creativity, and purpose. Fear often comes just before breakthrough, for the mind senses the magnitude of what lies ahead. Many turn back at the very threshold of success, mistaking fear for danger when it is merely the final test of commitment. When fear intensifies, it is often a sign that you are close to the moment your life will transform. Those who push through this final barrier step into opportunities that others never see. They enter arenas reserved for those who have proven themselves through courage. Have no fear, for fear is temporary, but the consequences of surrendering to it last forever. The regret of inaction is heavier than the pain of effort. The disappointment of never trying is deeper than the sting of failure. Failure can be corrected. Regret cannot. A man who lives courageously may stumble, but he never sits in silence, wondering what could have been. His life is rich with experience, growth, and progress. He becomes a living example of the power of courage. Courage strengthens the aura until it becomes a force of influence. People trust the courageous, for courage demonstrates integrity, stability, and leadership. Wealth gravitates to courage, because courage is the foundation of risk, and risk is the foundation of opportunity. No great fortune has ever been created without courage. No great legacy has ever been built without stepping into the unknown. Courage makes you worthy of the rewards you seek. To have no fear is to embrace life fully. It is to chase the dream that calls to your spirit. It is to pursue the purpose that refuses to let you sleep. It is to invest in yourself, to believe in your abilities, and to act with conviction even when the path is uncertain. Life does not demand perfection, it demands courage. It demands that you rise when you fall, advance when you doubt, and speak when your voice shakes. The courageous are not those who feel no fear. They are those who choose action anyway. Ultimately, to have no fear is to step into your divine right as a creator of destiny. Your thoughts shape your world. Your belief fuels your actions. Your courage opens the doors that fear keeps locked. With each courageous act, your aura brightens, your influence grows, and your path becomes clearer. You begin to attract people, opportunities, and circumstances that align with your highest potential. The world recognizes your inner fire, and it responds with echoes of success. So rise now with courage. Confront the doubts, silence the whispers of fear, and stand in the strength of your true nature. Walk boldly toward your dreams, knowing that fear cannot stop you unless you let it. You were not born for timidity, you were born for greatness. Let your life become a testament to what courage can create. Move forward with unwavering belief. Declare boldly through your actions and your presence, I have no fear, and when you do, life itself will bow in response. Fear is the greatest thief of destiny because it does not arrive with noise, violence, or disruption. It slips quietly into the mind, disguising itself as caution, logic, or humility, and begins to erode the foundation of your potential from the inside out. It steals more dreams than failure ever could, for failure at least teaches, strengthens, and redirects. Fear, however, robs silently, long before action is ever taken, long before effort is made, long before talent is revealed. It convinces you that your gifts are smaller than they are, that your capabilities are weaker than they feel, and that your vision is too distant to pursue. This subtle persuasion is how fear becomes the greatest thief of destiny. It does not need to attack, it simply needs to whisper. Fear persuades you to doubt your greatness, and this is its most dangerous trick. It knows that if it can weaken your belief, it can weaken your entire life, because everything begins with belief. A person who believes in himself becomes bold, decisive, willing to act, willing to risk, willing to move, even when the path is unclear. But a person who doubts himself becomes paralyzed. He questions his worth, his abilities, his right to aspire, and his place in the world. Fear uses doubt as a weapon, and doubt is powerful enough to stop a man from ever discovering who he could have become. Destiny is not something handed to you, it is something unlocked by action, effort, courage, and faith. But fear convinces you not to take the first step. It tells you that you are not ready, that you are not capable, that others are more deserving or more prepared. It magnifies your weaknesses, minimizes your strengths, and clouds your judgment until you begin to believe that a small life is safer, easier, and less painful than pursuing the life you truly desire. Fear does not steal destiny through confrontation. Fear steals destiny through persuasion. It makes you surrender your future voluntarily. Fear thrives when the mind is idle. It expands in silence during moments of hesitation, during times when you stand at the edge of opportunity but fail to leap. Every second spent overthinking is a second that fear grows stronger. It fills your imagination with worst-case scenarios, with exaggerated dangers, with imagined risks that are far greater than the reality. The more you entertain fear, the more convincing it becomes. And once fear takes root, it spreads into every part of life. Relationships, ambitions, habits, and self-image. To doubt your greatness is to doubt the very essence of life within you. Every human being is born with talents, tinks, insights, and strengths that no one else possesses in the same combination. But fear blinds you to these gifts. It makes you focus on everything you lack, everything you might lose, everything that could go wrong. Fear wants you to compare yourself to others and conclude that you are behind. It wants you to look at your dreams and conclude they are impossible. It wants you to look at your past and conclude that it defines your future. Fear distorts reality until mediocrity feels like safety. Fear is the enemy of expansion. Greatness requires stepping into unfamiliar territory, taking risks, learning new skills, and enduring temporary discomfort. But fear convinces you that comfort is more valuable than growth. It seduces you into staying the same even when you know you were made for more. Every dream that dies does so because fear convinced someone to stay where they were. Every gift that remains unused is buried beneath layers of doubt. Every potential that goes unexpressed is suffocated by the belief that I'm not good enough. Fear steals destiny not because it is powerful, but because it is persuasive. Fear also uses the past as evidence. It reminds you of every mistake, every failure, every embarrassment, and every moment when you fell short. And it uses these memories to convince you that progress is dangerous. It wants you to believe that. The pain you experienced once will return if you dare to try again. Fear does not want you to see the truth, that every successful person on earth has failed more times than the average person has attempted. That failure is not a barrier, but a requirement for growth. That mistakes are not evidence of weakness, but signs of evolution. But fear twists the narrative so effectively that many people choose to avoid growth entirely. Fear has no power on its own. Its only strength is the power you give it. When you believe the lies of fear, you shrink. You avoid action. You delay decisions. You postpone your dreams. You silence your voice. You reduce your ambition. You settle for what is easy instead of striving for what is meaningful. Little by little, your destiny is stolen, not by external forces, not by adversaries, not by circumstance, but by the quiet acceptance of fear's influence. The tragedy is not that fear exists. The tragedy is that most people never challenge it. They trust fear without questioning it. They obey it without analyzing it. They let it guide their choices without realizing that fear has never produced a life worth living. Fear builds small lives, small dreams, small expectations. But the world has never been changed by those who play small. The man who confronts fear discovers that the monster was only a shadow. The challenge was smaller than expected. The risk was manageable. The failure was survivable. The growth was worth it. And the greatness within him was always larger than the fear that tried to contain it. Action weakens fear. Movement dissolves doubt. Courage is born the moment you challenge the voice that says you cannot. Fear is the greatest thief of destiny, but only if you allow it. The moment you decide to reject fear's influence, everything changes. Your posture changes, your thoughts shift, your energy strengthens, your aura brightens. You begin to attract opportunities instead of avoiding them. You begin to act boldly instead of hesitating. You start trusting your inner wisdom instead of bowing to your inner doubts. Destiny belongs to the courageous, those who act even when afraid, who move even when uncertain, who believe even when they cannot yet see the evidence. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the refusal to be controlled by it, and that choice belongs to you alone. When you choose courage, fear loses its throne. When you choose belief, doubt loses its voice. When you choose action, hesitation loses its grip. When you choose greatness, nothing, not fear, not failure, not judgment, can stop you. Fear steals destiny only from those who surrender it. But the one who rises, the one who acts, the one who refuses to bow becomes untouchable. His future expands, his potential awakens, his life transforms, for destiny is always waiting. It is fear that delays it. And once you choose to have no fear, your destiny can no longer be stolen. It becomes yours. Fully, completely, powerfully. Courage is the gateway to all achievement because nothing meaningful, nothing groundbreaking, nothing transformative has ever been created by those who hesitated at the doorstep of uncertainty. Every great accomplishment in history stands as a monument to someone who dared to move forward when the outcome was unclear. Courage is not simply a noble virtue. It is the foundational force that ignites all progress. Without courage, intelligence remains unused. Talent remains buried. Opportunities remain untouched, and potential remains dormant. Courage is the spark that awakens the greatness already present within you and guides it toward expression in the world. No wealth is created without courage, for wealth demands risk. Risk of investment, risk of failure, risk of being misunderstood, risk of stepping outside familiar boundaries. Money flows toward certainty, confidence, and movement, and all three are produced by courage. The individual who is bold enough to act, even when he sees only a fraction of the path, attracts resources because he demonstrates leadership. People trust the courageous, follow the courageous, invest in the courageous. And so wealth is naturally drawn to the one who has mastered the art of moving forward despite uncertainty. Success in any field, business, art, leadership, personal growth, requires stepping beyond comfort. Comfort is the enemy of achievement because comfort convinces you that what you have is safer than what you could have. But courage challenges this belief. Courage whispers that the unknown is not a threat, but a frontier. It turns fear into fuel and transforms anxiety into momentum. Without boldness, success remains a distant concept, admired from afar but never experienced. But with courage, success becomes a living reality, unfolding one brave decision at a time. Influence, too, is impossible without courage. To influence others, you must first be willing to stand in your own truth. You must be willing to speak when others stay silent, to rise when others shrink, to express ideas that others are afraid to share. Influence is not granted to the timid. It is earned by those who dare to live authentically and walk boldly. People look to leaders who display certainty, clarity, and conviction, and these qualities are born from courage. The fearful can imitate leadership, but only the courageous can embody it. Courage is the force that allows you to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Every meaningful journey requires crossing a space filled with uncertainty. You may not know how the path will unfold, how others will respond, or whether your efforts will bear fruit. But courage moves you regardless. It gives you the strength to take the first step and the persistence to continue even when the path becomes difficult. Courage transforms uncertainty from a barrier into a catalyst. Uncertainty is not the enemy, fear is. Uncertainty is a natural part of growth. It signals that you are entering territory beyond your current experience. And this is good, for no one grows by repeating the familiar. Courage allows you to navigate uncertainty without being controlled by it. Where fear sees danger, courage sees opportunity. Where fear sees risk, courage sees possibility. Where fear sees the unknown, courage sees unexplored potential. Every person has moments when fear tries to dictate their choices. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who settle for mediocrity is not that one group feels no fear. Both feel it. The difference is that the courageous act anyway. Courage does not require the absence of fear. It requires that you elevate your belief above your fear. It requires that you trust your inner vision more than your external circumstances. Courage is a decision, not a feeling. Waiting to feel brave before taking action is a trap, for courage arises during action, not before it. The moment you step forward, despite trembling hands, racing thoughts, or uncertain outcomes, you activate the internal power that transforms hesitation into momentum. Courage grows stronger every time you use it. Like a muscle, it requires practice. Every courageous act, no matter how small, expands your capacity for greater courage. Boldness in the face of uncertainty is the hallmark of creators, leaders, innovators, and achievers. The inventor who changes the world does so because he dared to believe in what others could not yet see. The entrepreneur who builds an empire does so because she dared to invest when the outcome was not guaranteed. The artist who inspires generations does so because he dared to express his truth despite criticism. Every breakthrough, scientific, financial, personal, began with a moment of courage. Courage also expands your aura, your energetic signature. When you act boldly, even in small ways, your energy becomes stronger, clearer, and more influential. People feel the presence of a courageous person. They sense the determination, the confidence, the inner fire, and this magnetism attracts opportunities that remain hidden from the fearful. Someone who radiates courage becomes a beacon, drawing the right people, the right ideas, the right resources, and the right situations. Without courage, life becomes a repetition of yesterday. But with courage, life becomes an unfolding of possibility. Courage pushes you to learn new skills, meet new people, explore new environments, and pursue new levels of mastery. It transforms your identity, elevates your character, and shapes your destiny. Courage is not just something you use in moments of crisis. It is a way of living, showing up fully, speaking truthfully, acting decisively, and believing deeply. Courage is required not only at the beginning of a journey, but throughout it. Every new level of growth brings new uncertainties, new challenges, and new fears. The courage that got you to one level must be strengthened to reach the next. Courage is a lifelong companion. It is the fuel behind perseverance, the shield against criticism, and the anchor during storms. With courage, you keep moving forward even when progress feels slow or obstacles appear large. You discover that difficulties are not signs to stop, but signals to rise higher. Courage also frees you from the opinions of others. Fear keeps people trapped in the need for approval, afraid of judgment or rejection. But courage liberates you. It reminds you that your life belongs to you alone, not to the expectations of others. It gives you the strength to follow your truth, even if you walk alone at times. And strangely enough, when you embrace courage fully, you do not lose people. You attract the right ones. Ultimately, courage is the gateway to all achievement because it opens doors that fear keeps locked. It leads you into opportunities that fear hides. It awakens the giant within you that fear works tirelessly to suppress. Courage is the difference between an unlived life and a fulfilled one, between potential and reality, between dreams and destiny. To build wealth, to rise in success, to gain influence, to express your greatness, you must dare, you must risk, you must step forward despite trembling feet. This is the price of greatness, but it is also its reward. For once courage becomes your way of life, nothing remains impossible. For courage is not just the gateway to achievement, it is the gateway to your highest self. Fear is an illusion, action is its destroyer, for fear does not exist in the world outside, it exists only in the mind. It is a creation of thought, a shadow produced by imagination, an echo of doubt amplified within. Fear feels real because the mind is powerful, but the moment you move, truly move, fear dissolves, revealing itself as nothing more than a mental phantom. Action is the force that exposes fear's hollowness. It pierces the illusion and proves that the threat was never as large, never as dangerous, and never as real as fear made it seem. Confidence is not born before action. Confidence is born through action. Fear thrives in stillness. It grows in moments of hesitation, in nights spent overthinking, in days wasted imagining worst-case scenarios. When you do nothing, fear has room to expand. But the instant you take a single step toward your goal, fear begins to shrink. Movement shows the mind that you are capable, strong, and committed. It signals to your entire being that you are no longer a prisoner of anxiety, but the master of your destiny. Fear may scream loudly in moments of uncertainty, but action always silences it. Fear exaggerates the unknown. It takes a challenge and turns it into catastrophe. It takes uncertainty and paints it as danger. It magnifies the size of the obstacles, minimizes your strengths, and makes the path ahead seem darker than it is. Fear survives through imagination, not reality. And the only way to dismantle a false image is through real-world experience. When you take action, when you make the call, send the message, start the project, take the risk, you confront reality directly. And reality is always smaller than fear's deception. Action is truth. Fear is fiction. When you act, you are choosing truth over fiction. You are saying to fear, you do not define me. You are proving to yourself that the mind's illusions cannot stop you. Every courageous action becomes a victory. Not only in the physical world, but in the internal world where your identity is shaped. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who hesitates, but as someone who moves. Not as someone controlled by fear, but as someone who destroys it. Fear whispers lies. It tells you that you're not ready, not worthy, not strong enough. It tells you that failure is fatal, that embarrassment is unbearable, that rejection is the end. But these lies only survive if you believe them. When you act, you gather evidence, powerful evidence, that the lies were false. You discover that failure is not fatal, but instructional. That embarrassment is temporary, but growth is permanent. That rejection is not the end, but a redirection. You begin to see that life is not something to fear, but something to step boldly into. Your aura, the energy you radiate, reflects your relationship with fear. When fear controls you, your aura becomes weak, unstable, and dim. Opportunities sense this instability. People sense it. Even you sense it. But when you act despite fear, your aura brightens. It becomes focused, confident, decisive. And this change in energy attracts everything fear kept away: respect, opportunity, support, wealth, and progress. The world responds differently to someone who moves with courage. Confidence is not a mysterious gift that some are born with. It is a byproduct of action repeated until fear is silenced. Every time you face what frightens you, whether it is starting a conversation, launching a business, pursuing a dream, you inject strength into your character. Confidence is built the same way muscle is built, through resistance. Fear is the resistance, action is the training. The more you act, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the less fear can influence you. Fear loses power because it cannot exist in the present moment. Fear lives in the future, in imagined disasters that have not yet happened. But action happens now, in the present. That is why action destroys fear. It pulls you out of imagination and into reality. When your focus is on what you are doing, not what you are fearing, fear has no place to live. Presence kills fear. Action brings presence. Most people believe they must eliminate fear before moving. This is the greatest misunderstanding. You do not wait for fear to disappear. You move while fear is still present. Fear does not go first. You do. The moment you step forward, you take the power that fear was using against you and reclaim it. It's not that action follows confidence. Confidence follows action. You earn confidence by demonstrating courage, not by waiting for courage to magically appear. Action builds momentum. Momentum builds belief. Belief builds identity. And once your identity shifts from someone who fears to someone who acts, fear no longer has any meaningful control over your life. You begin to trust yourself deeply. You recognize your resilience. You acknowledge your capability. And this self-trust becomes a fortress against the illusions fear tries to create. Action also reveals your true path. Fear keeps you stuck by making the unknown look dangerous. But the unknown is not dangerous. It is simply undiscovered. When you act, you discover. You learn more in one moment of action than in hours of thinking. You gain clarity, skill, and insight that fear can never give you. Every step forward, no matter how small, expands your world. And the more your world expands, the smaller fear becomes. Fear feeds on inactivity, but it starves when you make decisions. Every decisive choice breaks fear's influence. Every clear intention reduces its voice. Every courageous action rewires your mind to associate progress with strength instead of danger. Over time, your relationship with fear transforms. You stop seeing it as something to flee from and begin seeing it as a signal of growth. Fear becomes a compass, not an enemy. It points toward exactly where you must act to evolve. Action is the great transformer. It transforms fear into fuel, doubt into determination, hesitation into momentum. It transforms the ordinary person into a leader, the hesitant thinker into a decisive creator, the anxious soul into a confident force. Every great success story began with a moment when someone decided to act despite trembling hands. And from that act, everything changed. Fear is an illusion because it is not a barrier. It is a suggestion your mind is offered based on past experiences, assumptions, or imagined dangers. You are free to reject that suggestion. Every time you act, you reject fear's authority and claim your own. Your destiny does not belong to fear. It belongs to the part of you that dares to step forward, the part that acts, the part that believes, the part that refuses to be held hostage by illusions. Fear vanishes in the face of movement. Confidence arises in the presence of progress. So take the step, make the call, start the project, face the challenge, walk into the unknown. Because the moment you move, fear loses power, and the moment fear loses power, confidence is born. Your aura weakens with fear but strengthens with bold decisions because your energy is a direct reflection of the choices you make, the emotions you hold, and the intentions you live by. Your aura is not just a mystical concept, it is the field of influence that surrounds you, the unseen force that people sense before you speak a word. It communicates your confidence, your certainty, your intentions, and your inner strength. When fear dominates your mind, your aura contracts, it becomes dim, unstable, hesitant. But when you act with courage, when you make bold decisions, your aura expands. It becomes magnetic, powerful, and influential. People feel this shift. Opportunities feel it. Life responds to it. Fear drains your energy because fear is a contraction. It pulls your attention inward, focusing on danger, doubt, and limitation. Even when no real threat exists, the emotional weight of fear slows your vibration and weakens your presence. A fearful aura tells the world, I am uncertain, I am hesitant, I am not ready. And the world mirrors that energy back. This is why fear creates stagnation. It closes doors, pushes away opportunities, and attracts situations that match its frequency. Fear is not just a feeling, it is a message your aura broadcasts to everything around you. Bold decisions, however, are expansions. When you make a courageous choice, even a small one, your energy opens. You feel more alive, more aware, more powerful. Your aura becomes brighter, stronger, more assured. This energetic shift sends a different message to the world. I am ready. I am capable. I am moving forward. And life responds with resources, people, and circumstances that align with that mindset. Courage attracts forward momentum. Bold decisions amplify your magnetism because they show that you trust yourself, your intuition, and your purpose. Think of times in your life when you acted boldly. Perhaps you stood up for yourself. Perhaps you pursued something you felt afraid to attempt. Perhaps you took a risk that changed your path. In those moments, you felt a surge of strength. You felt your energy expand. That feeling is your aura strengthening. It is the internal confirmation that boldness is aligned with your true nature. We are not born timid. We are born with curiosity, drive, and a natural desire to grow. Fear only enters later, often taught or absorbed. Courage, however, is inherent. It reconnects you with who you really are. Every bold decision reinforces your inner power. It tells your subconscious mind, I am someone who moves. I am someone who acts. I am someone who chooses growth over fear. This identity shift makes future decisions easier. Your aura becomes trained to operate from strength rather than hesitation. And because energy precedes experience, your strengthened aura begins attracting new possibilities. Successful people are not lucky, they are courageous. They radiate certainty, and life responds to certainty. Opportunities are drawn toward bold energy because bold people take responsibility for their outcomes. They are willing to try, to experiment, to refine, to grow. This makes them valuable. Opportunities, like people, are drawn to the ones who are willing to steward them with confidence. A timid vibration says, I hope things work out. A bold vibration says, I will make things work. This difference in energy changes what life sends you. Allies, too, gravitate to the courageous. When you embody courage, you inspire trust. People sense your CLA. Ready? They sense your conviction. They sense that you are moving towards something meaningful. This draws in support, mentorship, collaboration, and encouragement. Strong energy attracts strong people. When your aura shines brightly, you become a beacon for those who share your drive. You begin forming connections that elevate your path. Success responds to boldness because success requires movement. It requires decisions. It requires the willingness to act even when results are not guaranteed. A fearful aura hesitates, doubting its own capacity. But a bold aura declares its intention and backs it with action. Success is drawn to individuals who operate with decisiveness, because decisiveness communicates readiness. When you embody courage consistently, success does not just appear by chance, it becomes inevitable. Fear weakens your aura by creating internal conflict. When you want to move forward but fear holds you back, your energy becomes divided. Part of you knows your potential. Another part tries to protect you from imagined danger. This conflict creates energetic noise. It lowers your frequency. It disrupts your clarity. It makes your aura inconsistent and difficult for the world to read. Bold decisions eliminate this conflict. When you choose courage, you unify your energy. You move from contradiction to alignment. Alignment strengthens your aura more than anything else. Courage is not reckless. Courage does not mean acting without thought. Courage means acting with intention, guided by purpose rather than fear. It means choosing growth even when comfort tries to seduce you. Bold decisions do not have to be massive. Every small, brave choice builds strength. Calling someone you've avoided, starting something you've postponed, speaking truth when it would be easier to stay silent, ending something that no longer serves you. Each act of courage reinforces your aura and increases your magnetism. Your aura thrives on clarity. Fear clouds clarity. Courage sharpens it. When you choose boldly, you create direction, you create momentum, you create certainty. This certainty is felt by everyone around you. People trust those who know where they are going, even if the destination is not fully defined. Boldness communicates leadership. It communicates confidence. It communicates the inner strength that people instinctively respect and follow. Your aura becomes unstoppable when courage becomes your default state. Imagine living each day with energy that is grounded, powerful and expansive. Imagine making decisions not based on fear of loss, but on desire for growth. Imagine attracting relationships, opportunities, and success simply because your energy declares that you are ready. This is not fantasy. This is the natural consequence of repeated courageous action. Fear will always try to weaken your aura, but you have the power to strengthen it every time you choose boldness. Remember that fear cannot stop you unless you surrender to it, but courage strengthens you instantly. Every bold decision adds power to your presence. Every courageous movement expands your influence. Every act of bravery reinforces the message your aura sends to the world. I am strong, I am ready, I am moving forward. And when your aura carries that message, life can only respond with opportunities, allies, and success. Vision dissolves fear because clarity is one of the greatest powers a human being can possess. When you know exactly who you are, where you are going, and what you are determined to achieve, fear loses its grip. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It grows in the fog, in confusion, in doubt. But a clear vision cuts through that fog like a beam of light. When your purpose becomes unmistakable, obstacles that once looked overwhelming begin to shrink. What felt impossible suddenly becomes manageable. What once intimidated you becomes simply another step on the path. Vision does not remove challenges, but it makes them irrelevant compared to the power of your purpose. A clear vision aligns your entire being, your mind, your heart, your energy, your emotions, your decisions. Instead of scattering your power in 1,000 directions, vision focuses it like a laser. And when your internal world is aligned, fear cannot dominate you. Fear loses strength when your purpose grows stronger. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start declaring, "This is where I'm going." That shift alone weakens fear instantly. Fear only has power in the absence of direction. When you don't know what you truly want, fear fills the void. It distracts you with doubts, worries, and imagined problems. But when you define your purpose with clarity and intensity, you reclaim that space. Vision becomes your anchor. It roots you so deeply in your mission that fear becomes nothing more than background noise. Vision also changes how you interpret obstacles. Without vision, obstacles appear as threats, things that might hurt you, slow you down, or stop you. You fear making mistakes. You fear the unknown. You fear the judgment of others. But when your purpose is clear, obstacles transform from threats into tools. Each challenge becomes a teacher. Each setback becomes a lesson. Each difficulty becomes a necessary part of the journey. You do not fear the obstacle, you welcome it because it shapes you into the person capable of fulfilling your vision. Purpose gives meaning to struggle. When struggle has meaning, it loses its ability to intimidate you. Fear cannot survive in an environment where difficulty is understood as growth. A powerful vision activates your courage. When your goals are weak, your courage stays asleep. When your purpose is strong, your rage wakes up. Clarity sparks inner fire, the kind of fire that refuses to be extinguished by fear. You begin to feel driven, compelled, motivated from within. The fear is still there, but it becomes small compared to the magnitude of your purpose. Vision creates momentum because it gives you a destination. You stop wandering, you stop hesitating, you stop doubting, you begin moving. And the very act of moving weakens fear even further. Fear cannot keep up with momentum. It cannot survive within someone who takes daily steps toward a clear goal. Every step forward sends a message to your subconscious mind, I am doing this, I am committed, I am in motion. And that message reshapes your identity into someone who is unstoppable. When your vision grows stronger, the path forward becomes undeniable. You start noticing opportunities you once overlooked. You feel inspired to act in ways you previously avoided. You attract people who resonate with your mission. You make decisions with confidence instead of indecision. The path seems to open, not because it suddenly became easier, but because your clarity allows you to finally recognize the way. Vision is magnetic. A person who knows their purpose radiates certainty, and certainty is powerful. People are naturally drawn to someone who has direction. Doors open for those who clearly know where they are going. The universe responds more quickly to deliberate intention than to scattered desires. A clear vision pulls circumstances toward you. It calls resources into your life. It aligns situations in your favor. The world has a way of moving aside for someone who moves with conviction. Fear, on the other hand, makes you reactive. Instead of moving forward, you wait, you hesitate. You second-guess your dreams, your ideas, your abilities. Without vision, you live in response to life instead of shaping life according to your purpose. Fear becomes the architect of your decisions. But when you define your vision, you take back the architect's role. You decide the design of your destiny. The clearer your vision, the stronger your aura. Purpose radiates energy. It gives your presence weight. It strengthens your voice, your posture, your decisions. People feel the clarity in your energy long before you speak. And that clarity attracts everything fear pushed away: support, opportunities, mentorship, success, abundance. You become a source of direction, and people instinctively trust those who are grounded in purpose. Vision also creates discipline. When you know where you are going, you stop wasting time on things that lead nowhere. You stop entertaining distractions. You stop falling for temptations that take you off your path. A clear purpose makes discipline feel natural rather than forced. Each decision is filtered through one question: does this serve my vision? If the answer is no, it becomes easy to walk away. Fear loses control because you no longer act from emotion, you act from intention. The greatest fear human beings experience is not fear of failure or rejection, it is fear of purposelessness. When you lack vision, you drift through life without direction, and drifting creates anxiety. But the moment your purpose becomes clear, that anxiety dissolves. You feel anchored, grounded, guided. You know why you are here. You know what you must do. Vision gives you something fear could never give: identity. You stop feeling lost. You stop questioning your worth. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop living in the shadows of doubt. You begin living from your deepest truth. This alignment with truth destroys fear, because fear cannot survive in a mind that is rooted in purpose. Your life transforms when your purpose becomes undeniable. You rise higher. You think clearer. You act faster. You move smarter. Obstacles lose meaning. Doubts lose strength. Fear loses its authority over you. And the path ahead, once confusing, once intimidating, becomes illuminated with clarity. Vision does not just dissolve fear. Vision replaces fear. It replaces fear with determination. It replaces fear with certainty. It replaces fear with boldness. It replaces fear with the quiet inner knowing that you are destined for something greater. Because when your purpose is clear, the world no longer intimidates you. It opens before you, and the path forward becomes undeniable. Gratitude transforms worry into trust, because the mind cannot hold fear and appreciation at the same time. These two emotions operate on completely different frequencies. Fear contracts your energy, narrows your perception, and fills your imagination with worst-case scenarios. Gratitude expands your energy, widens your perception, and fills your imagination with possibility. When you shift your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what is uncertain to what is already working, fear simply cannot survive. Gratitude is one of the most powerful antidotes to anxiety, doubt, and scarcity thinking, because it rewires the emotional state from within. A grateful mind is rooted in the awareness of abundance. It sees blessings where others see problems. It sees potential where others see barriers. It sees opportunity where others see defeat. When you practice gratitude consistently, you begin to train your consciousness to recognize the good, the growth, the progress, and the hidden support surrounding you. And once your mind becomes tuned to abundance, fear loses its influence. Scarcity cannot control someone who constantly acknowledges how much they already have. Worry is the product of focusing on lack. What might go wrong, what you might lose, what you might not achieve. Gratitude flips this script entirely. Instead of fixating on what you fear, you become aware of how much life has already provided. This awareness calms the nervous system, stabilizes your energy, and builds trust in the process of life. You begin to realize that you have made it through challenges before, that you have been supported in unseen ways, and that things often work out better than you imagined. Gratitude turns your attention toward evidence that life is on your side. When you recognize that evidence, fear fades like a shadow illuminated by light. A grateful mind broadcasts abundance because it communicates to the universe, to your subconscious mind, and to your surrounding energy field that you already possess value, strength, and resources. This broadcast acts like a magnet, attracting more of what you appreciate. The energetic truth is simple. What you focus on expands. When you focus on fear, fear grows. When you focus on blessings, blessings grow. This is why gratitude is not just a spiritual philosophy. It is a practical strategy for abundance. Fear creates tension in the body and chaos in the mind. It makes you tighten up, hold back, and hesitate. It convinces you that you must protect everything because there is not enough. But gratitude softens you. It opens you. It relaxes your energy. When you are relaxed, your intuition becomes clearer, your decisions become wiser, and your actions become more effective. Gratitude puts you in a state where success can reach you because fear creates resistance while gratitude creates receptivity. Trust grows naturally from gratitude because gratitude reminds you that you are not alone. It reminds you that life has been guiding you, shaping you, and supporting you in ways you never fully recognized. Gratitude transforms the story in your mind. Instead of telling yourself, "I am at risk," you begin saying, "I am supported." Instead of thinking things might fall apart, you begin thinking things might fall into place. This shift from fear to trust is not blind optimism. It is a deeper recognition that life has a rhythm, a timing, a wisdom beyond what fear can understand. Fear often arises when you believe you must control everything. Gratitude teaches you that you don't have to. It teaches you to trust the process, trust yourself, trust the timing, and trust the unseen forces working on your behalf. When you release the need for control, fear loses its strongest weapon. You realize that the universe is not chaotic but organized, not indifferent but responsive. Gratitude reveals the pattern of support you were too worried to notice before. A grateful mind cannot live in fear because gratitude keeps your attention grounded in the present moment. Fear lives in the future. It is always about what might happen. But gratitude lives in the now. It is about what is happening. When you anchor yourself in the present, fear has no territory left to occupy. The present moment is always manageable, always clear, always real. Fear depends on imagination. Gratitude depends on awareness. Awareness is stronger. Gratitude also elevates your aura. A grateful person radiates warmth, optimism, and calm. People feel safe around someone who appreciates life rather than fears it. This energetic stability attracts better relationships, more opportunities, and deeper trust from others. Confidence grows naturally when you recognize that you are blessed, supported, and equipped for your journey. And confidence is one of the most magnetic forces in the world. Scarcity breaks your spirit. Abundance lifts it. When you adopt a gratitude mindset, you begin to operate as someone who expects good things. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with the truth that life is abundant. You walk with a different posture. You speak with a different tone. You make choices from strength, not desperation. This inner shift changes your entire environment. A grateful person does not fear loss because they recognize that life is always giving, even when it takes something away. They do not fear change because they trust that each season carries its own blessings. They do not fear uncertainty because they understand that uncertainty is not empty. It is filled with potential. Gratitude builds trust in the unseen. It teaches you that behind every challenge is growth, behind every delay is protection, and behind every ending is a beginning. You cannot fake gratitude. True gratitude is felt deeply. It is a quiet recognition that life is richer than you noticed, that you have more resources than you realized, that you have overcome more than you acknowledged. Gratitude humbles you and empowers you simultaneously. It brings peace to your mind and strength to your spirit. When worry knocks on the door of a grateful heart, it finds no room to enter. Gratitude answers with trust. Gratitude answers with abundance. Gratitude answers with certainty that life is unfolding in your favor. This is why gratitude is not just a feel-good emotion. It is a transformational force. It shifts your vibration, strengthens your aura, attracts prosperity, enhances your clarity, and builds a foundation of trust that fear cannot penetrate. A grateful mind cannot live in fear because gratitude gives you a vision of abundance. So powerful that scarcity loses meaning. The more you practice it, the more fearless you become. The more fearless you become, the more life opens before you, because gratitude does not just change how you feel. Gratitude changes who you are. It changes the energy you radiate. It changes the destiny you attract. And ultimately, gratitude transforms worry into trust. And trust transforms life itself. Fear disguises itself as logic because the mind is brilliant at protecting you, even when the thing it's protecting you from is your own growth. Fear rarely announces itself loudly. It rarely says, "I am afraid." Instead, it whispers in a calm, rational voice. It speaks with the tone of caution, the tone of reason, the tone of practicality. It creates excuses that sound intelligent, safe, and responsible. And because they sound reasonable, you believe them. You don't question them. You accept them as truth. But beneath those polished explanations is fear wearing a mask, trying to keep you small. Fear's most clever strategy is to present itself as logic. Instead of saying, "Don't take that risk," fear says, "It's not the right time." Instead of saying, "You're scared of failing," fear says, "Let's wait until you're more prepared." Instead of saying, "You doubt yourself," fear says, "Be realistic." And because these excuses sound rational, you obey them without realizing that you are surrendering to fear every time. Logic is not the enemy. Fear pretending to be logic is. True logic helps you grow. It helps you evaluate risks wisely. It helps you plan, prepare, and make strong decisions. But fear-based logic keeps you paralyzed. It convinces you that staying where you are is safer than moving forward. It exaggerates dangers and minimizes opportunities. It uses your intelligence to justify your hesitation. And if you don't learn to distinguish true logic from fear logic, you will live your entire life believing that your excuses are reality. Fear loves comfort zones. It knows that as long as you stay within the familiar, you won't face uncertainty. And because fear cannot survive in movement, progress, or expansion, it works hard to keep you still. But it can't say that directly. It must use logic as a disguise. So it tells you things like, "You should wait for the perfect moment. You need more experience. You don't want to look foolish. What will people think? What if it goes wrong?" These thoughts feel like caution, but they are fear in costume. They are the mind trying to protect you from discomfort, not danger. Growth is uncomfortable. Success is uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. And because fear cannot differentiate between discomfort and danger, it tries to prevent both. The tragedy is that many people live their entire lives listening to fear dressed as logic, never realizing that their limitations were self-imposed. They believe the excuses, they believe the narratives, they believe that waiting, hesitating, and holding back is sensible. But what they're really doing is abandoning their own potential. Fear-based logic sounds like, "I'll start tomorrow. Now is not the right time. I don't want to risk losing what I have. I need to fix myself first. I'm not ready yet. This may not work, so why try?" The mind presents these ideas with such calm certainty that you rarely question them. But every one of these excuses is a barrier created by fear. They are invisible walls. They keep you small, restricted, and controlled. Without realizing it, you live a life governed by an enemy that hides behind your own thoughts. Real growth requires learning to question the excuses that sound reasonable. It requires the courage to ask yourself, is this truly logical? Or is this fear pretending to be logic? Often, when you look deeper, you realize that the fear is not about the situation. It's about your belief in your own capability. You fear stepping into a bigger version of yourself because that bigger version demands responsibility, vulnerability, and courage. Fear doesn't want you to step into greatness because greatness requires you to face the unknown. And the unknown is the one thing fear cannot control. So it persuades you with arguments that sound intelligent. But every major breakthrough in history was made by someone who refused to obey fear-based logic. They identified the difference between wisdom and paralysis. They learned that fear often hides inside reasonable excuses. Your aura, your energy field is shaped by the decisions you make. When you follow fear-based logic, your aura becomes timid, hesitant, and dull. You project uncertainty, and the world reflects that uncertainty back to you. Opportunities pass you by because your energy signals hesitation. People sense your self-doubt before you say a word. But when you expose fear's disguise, when you recognize that your excuses are rooted in insecurity, not truth, you take back power. When you act despite the reasonable excuses, your aura strengthens. You radiate clarity. You radiate confidence. You radiate momentum. And opportunities respond to that energy. People respond to that energy. Life responds to that energy. Many people claim they do not have opportunities, but opportunities rarely come to those who operate from fear. Opportunity is drawn to boldness. It is drawn to decisive energy. It is drawn to people who act even when the mind tries to hold them back. Think of the moments in your life when you acted despite fear. Those moments were always followed by growth, never regret. You felt alive. You felt proud. You felt expanded. That feeling is your true self breaking free from fear's limitations. That feeling is evidence that fear's logic was a lie. Fear disguises itself especially well when you stand on the brink of something meaningful. The closer you get to a breakthrough, the louder the reasonable excuses become. This is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that fear senses your growth. It panics. It tries to pull you back into the familiar. It tries to protect its territory. Most people turn back at this moment believing the excuses, but the ones who ignore the excuses, the ones who break through the final layer of fear, are the ones who step into a life far larger than the one they left behind. A powerful strategy to defeat fear-based logic is honesty. True honesty with yourself can expose the lies fear whispers. Asking yourself simple but bold questions like, what am I really afraid of? Does this excuse serve my growth or my comfort? If I had total confidence, what would I do next? Is this a real limitation or a mental one? These questions pierce the mask and reveal the truth. They show you that most obstacles are psychological, not physical. They show you that your greatest barriers exist in your thinking, not in your environment. When you strip fear of its disguise, you liberate yourself. You become someone who sees through illusion, someone who moves with clarity, someone who acts with power. You begin making decisions based on vision rather than fear. And this shift in decision-making transforms your aura, your results, your relationships, your opportunities, and your entire destiny. Fear wearing a mask will always try to keep you small, but your purpose, your potential, your vision, they demand expansion, they demand courage, they demand decisions made from truth, not illusion, because fear may disguise itself as logic, but your soul always knows the difference. And when you choose truth over fear, life expands in ways fear never wanted you to discover. Breakthroughs lie just beyond fear, because fear is always strongest at the threshold of transformation. Right before something in you is about to expand, fear rises like a wall, trying to convince you that moving forward is too risky, too uncertain, too impossible. But what most people never realize is that this wall is not solid. It's a projection, a final illusion, a last attempt by the mind to keep you in the familiar. Most people quit right here, at the very edge of their breakthrough, because they misinterpret fear's intensity as a signal to stop. In truth, the intensity is proof that they are inches away from becoming someone they've never been before. Fear sharpens as you approach your next level because fear thrives on familiarity. It wants you to stay the same. It wants you to repeat your past. It wants you to remain in environments where it feels in control. When you begin moving towards something new, a new dream, a new identity, a new opportunity, fear senses it is losing influence. And like anything losing power, it fights harder. This is why fear feels the strongest not at the beginning of your journey, but right before a major shift. Fear intensifies because you are close. Most people mistake this intensity for danger. They believe the discomfort is a sign that they are on the wrong path, when in reality it is a sign that they are on the right one. The old version of you is dissolving. The new version of you is emerging. That transition is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Expansion is uncomfortable. But discomfort is not a warning. Discomfort is initiation. The greater the discomfort, the greater the breakthrough waiting on the other side. Fear is not a barrier, it is a threshold. Think of all the moments in life when you hesitated the most. Every time the fear peaked, something significant was at stake. Your future, your identity, your potential, your self-worth. Fear appears right before a breakthrough because the mind wants to protect you from the unknown. But the unknown is the place where transformation happens. Everything you dream of but have not yet experienced exists in the unknown. Breakthroughs are born there. The tragedy is that most people turn back at the exact moment they should move forward. They step into the discomfort, feel the pressure, hear fear's voice getting louder, and assume something is wrong. They feel doubt rising, and they think doubt is a sign to quit. They feel uncertainty, and they think uncertainty means danger. They feel resistance, and they mistake resistance for failure. But resistance is the final gate to expansion. When you push through that gate, life opens. Fear rises when your potential rises. They are linked. When you are stagnant, fear is quiet because you are no threat to your own limitations. But the moment you reach toward a bigger destiny, fear becomes loud. It tries to protect the version of you that is familiar, predictable, and safe. But breakthroughs require you to outgrow that version. They require you to step into a larger, wiser, more powerful expression of yourself. Every breakthrough demands a shedding. You must let go of old habits, old identities, old beliefs, old excuses, old fears. Shedding feels like loss. It feels like uncertainty. It feels like chaos. That is why fear increases. It fears this shedding. It knows you are about to become someone new, someone fear can no longer control. Breakthroughs are emotional, not logical. They are spiritual, not mechanical. They happen when the internal shift becomes greater than the external resistance. You break through when your desire becomes stronger than your doubt, when your courage becomes stronger than your fear, when your faith becomes stronger than your excuses. Most people do not realize how close they are when they quit. They think the struggle means they are failing. They think the challenge means they are not meant to continue. But the struggle is the preparation. The challenge is the initiation. The pressure is shaping you. The discomfort is sculpting you. You are being stretched so you can grow. You are being tested so you can strengthen. The version of you capable of receiving the breakthrough is being forged in that exact moment. Imagine a seed pushing through the soil. The moment before it breaks. The surface is the hardest. The resistance is greatest. The pressure is most intense, but the breakthrough, breaking into the light, happens just on the other side of that pressure. Human transformation works the same way. The darkest moment, the hardest moment, the most fearful moment often comes right before your life upgrades. Your aura reflects this process. When you are near a breakthrough, your aura expands. It begins to stretch into new frequencies of courage, clarity, and strength. But at the same time, the old energetic patterns cling to you. Fear tries to pull your aura backward. This energetic tug-of-war creates internal tension. Many people interpret this tension as a sign that they should stop. But it is actually the final squeeze before rebirth. If you push through, your aura transforms, becoming brighter, stronger, and more magnetic. Breakthrough energy is magnetic. When you break through fear, you radiate confidence. Opportunities begin aligning. People begin noticing. Doors begin opening. Momentum builds rapidly. It is as if the universe was waiting for you to cross that internal threshold. Because breakthroughs are not just external, they are internal awakenings. Once you shift internally, the external world responds immediately, but you cannot access breakthrough energy if you surrender to fear at its peak. You must push beyond the illusion. You must understand that fear becomes loudest right before it becomes powerless. That is when most people quit, but that is when you must rise. That is when you must breathe deeply, ground yourself, and take one more step, because that one step might be the step that transforms everything. There will always be a moment when you question whether you are capable. That moment always comes right before you discover that you are. There will always be a moment when you want to quit. That moment always comes right before something shifts. There will always be a moment when fear screams the loudest. That moment always comes right before fear dies. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not talent, luck, or resources. It is the ability to keep moving when fear intensifies, to move when doubt grows louder, to act when hesitation wants to take over. Breakthroughs do not belong to the fearless. Breakthroughs belong to those who feel fear deeply and move anyway. Because just beyond fear, life waits with open arms. Just beyond fear, your gifts awaken. Just beyond fear, your destiny expands. Just beyond fear, the person you were meant to become is waiting. You are always closer than you think, always inches away, always one brave step from transformation. Do not quit when fear intensifies. That is not the moment to stop. That is the moment to break through. Action creates courage, moving beyond doubt to build true confidence. We often think of confidence as something we either have or don't have, a trait we are born with, or a quality that life either grants us or denies us. Society tells us to wait until you feel ready, trust yourself when the time comes, or confidence will follow experience. Yet, these ideas are fundamentally misleading. Confidence is not a passive state. It is an active process. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you generate through action, especially when you feel doubt, fear, or uncertainty. Action creates courage, and courage is the fuel that builds real confidence. At its core, confidence is not about being fearless. It is about moving forward in spite of fear. It is about taking steps even when the ground feels unstable, even when your mind tells you that failure is more likely than success. Think about it. Every person you admire, every leader, every innovator, every trailblazer did not start their journey with unwavering confidence. They started with action. They acted when they were unsure, stumbled when they doubted, and persevered despite the discomfort of uncertainty. The act of stepping forward, despite fear, creates courage. Courage is not a mystical gift. It is a muscle, and like any muscle, it strengthens through use. The human mind has a natural tendency to overestimate risk and underestimate ability. We imagine all the ways things can go wrong, all the pitfalls that might trap us, and all the judgment we might face. This is doubt, the inner voice that whispers, wait, don't risk it, maybe you're not ready. But here is the paradox. The more we wait for confidence to arrive, the more it slips away. Confidence is born in the crucible of experience, in the moments when we move forward despite that inner voice. Every time we take action, in the presence of doubt, we tell ourselves, I am capable, I can face this challenge. With each small step, courage grows and confidence follows naturally. Consider the analogy of a river carving a canyon. At first, water meets solid rock and struggles to make a path. It may flow unevenly, it may seem weak, yet through persistence, it carves a channel over time. In the same way, our first steps toward action may feel awkward, unsure, or even failing. Yet every step chips away at the rock of doubt. Every attempt strengthens the channel through which courage flows. Waiting for confidence without action is like waiting for the river to carve the canyon without letting the water move. It simply won't happen. Action is the antidote to fear because it shifts the focus from imagined obstacles to real, tangible progress. Fear thrives in the realm of what if. What if I fail? What if I am judged? What if I make a mistake? But when we act, we step into reality. The what if becomes what is. We see that obstacles are often smaller than we imagined, that judgment is less paralyzing than anticipated, and that mistakes are opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. Action transforms abstract fear into concrete experience, and with each completed step, our self-trust and self-assurance deepen. One of the most important aspects of building confidence through action is embracing discomfort. Humans are naturally wired to seek safety, and stepping into action, especially when it involves uncertainty, feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal that you are growing. Growth never happens in the comfort zone. Every time you stretch beyond what feels safe, you expand your capacity for resilience and courage. That tension between fear and action is the crucible in which real confidence is forged. It is also critical to understand that courage does not require perfection. Many people delay action because they feel they must be fully prepared, fully skilled, or fully certain before taking a step forward. This is a trap. No one ever becomes confident by waiting to be flawless. Confidence emerges from experience, from trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Action itself is the teacher. Each time you act, you gather information, learn lessons, and discover that you are more capable than you thought. The mistakes are not failures, they are the stepping stones of mastery. Let's examine the psychology behind this process. Our brains are wired to reinforce patterns. Every time we act despite doubt, we create neural pathways that associate action with overcoming fear. Conversely, every time we avoid action because of doubt, we reinforce patterns of hesitation, self-doubt, and insecurity. Courage is cultivated like a habit. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Confidence is not a lucky accident. It is the cumulative result of repeatedly choosing to move forward even when your heart trembles. Action also creates momentum. Confidence is a dynamic state. It grows when it moves. When you take one small step, it generates energy that propels you to the next step. Action produces results. Results build self-trust, and self-trust fuels more action. It is a cycle. The first step is always the hardest because doubt looms largest at the start. But once movement begins, even if tentative, momentum carries you forward. Each forward motion, no matter how small, chips away at hesitation and builds confidence. The stories of great achievers across all fields illustrate this truth. Every successful entrepreneur, artist, athlete, and leader started not by feeling confident, but by taking action. They acted when they were uncertain, pursued goals when obstacles loomed, and persisted when the outcome was unclear. Confidence did not precede their actions, it emerged from them. They did not wait for courage to appear. They generated it by moving forward. Now consider your own life. How many opportunities have you delayed because you felt unprepared or doubtful? How many dreams have remained on the shelf because the fear of failure outweighed the willingness to act? The truth is, waiting rarely creates courage. Waiting only amplifies doubt. Only action produces the kind of courage that transforms lives. When you take action, you do not just move toward your goals. You also cultivate the inner strength and self-belief needed to thrive in the long term. So how do you start? Begin small, but begin. Take one step, even if it feels uncertain. Face one fear, even if it trembles in your mind. Do something today that moves you closer to your goal, even if it is imperfect. Celebrate the act itself, not just the result. Each step, no matter how small, reinforces the message that you are capable, resilient, and courageous. Over time, these repeated acts of courage accumulate into authentic confidence. Remember, confidence is not a destination, it is a journey. And like any journey, it begins with movement. Waiting for certainty, waiting for fear to disappear, waiting for readiness, these are illusions. Confidence is forged in the act of moving forward. Action creates courage. Courage creates confidence. And confidence, once built, opens doors that fear could never unlock. In conclusion, the secret is simple but profound. Do not wait for confidence to arrive. Do not wait until doubt disappears. Take action despite your fear. Step forward even when your mind hesitates. Each step you take generates courage, and each act of courage builds real, lasting confidence. The path to self-assurance is not found in idle wishing. It is forged through movement, through effort, and through the relentless courage to act. Start today. Move forward. Your confidence is waiting, not in some distant future, but in the action you take right now, living without fear, unlocking your highest potential. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It can protect us, alert us to danger, and help us survive, but it can also hold us hostage, limit our potential, and dictate the course of our lives. The truth is, living with fear is like keeping one foot on the brake while trying to accelerate toward your dreams. No matter how talented, capable, or determined you are, fear has a way of slowing you down, clouding your judgment, and keeping you small. To live fully, to achieve greatness, and to realize your highest potential, you must confront fear and ultimately live without it. Living with no fear does not mean recklessness or ignoring risk. It means refusing to let fear dictate your choices, your thoughts, and your destiny. It means taking control of your life instead of being controlled by imagined limitatio. When fear no longer dictates your decisions, you step into a space of freedom, a space where possibilities multiply and where success, power, and abundance can finally flow to you. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It whispers that you are not ready, that failure is inevitable, that the world is too big, too dangerous, or too unforgiving. But these are illusions that the mind creates. Most of the obstacles we perceive are not as large as they seem. They are amplified by our fear. When you confront fear, when you act despite it, you begin to see that the limitations were never real, they were self-imposed. By choosing courage over hesitation, action over paralysis, you step into your true potential. Living without fear requires self-awareness. You must first recognize how fear operates in your life. Fear often comes disguised as caution, doubt, or procrastination. It tells you that waiting is safer, that inaction is wiser, that you need more preparation or more knowledge before taking the next step. But the truth is, fear is rarely about actual danger. It is about control. Fear wants to keep you within a comfort zone where nothing can threaten you, but neither can anything grow. To unlock your potential, you must step out of the comfort zone and into action, even when fear is present. Consider the power of fearlessness. When you no longer let fear dictate your choices, you gain clarity. You see opportunities that were invisible before. You trust yourself to handle challenges. You become more decisive, more bold, and more willing to embrace risk because you understand that failure is not the end. It is a stepping stone. History is full of examples of people who achieved greatness by refusing to be ruled by fear. Entrepreneurs built empires despite uncertainty. Athletes broke records despite the pressure of expectations. Artists created masterpieces despite criticism. In Eve, fear was present, but it did not control the outcome. What distinguished them was courage, the decision to move forward despite fear. Living without fear also unlocks your creativity. Fear limits imagination because it tells you to play it safe, to avoid risk, and to stick with what is familiar. But when fear is removed, the mind opens. Ideas flow freely, innovation becomes possible, and new solutions emerge. Fearless individuals are willing to take unconventional paths, to challenge norms, and to explore unknown territory. This willingness to step into the unknown is what separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Every major breakthrough in science, art, or business has been fueled by individuals who refuse to let fear dictate their actions. Fear has a way of shrinking your vision of what is possible. It tells you that abundance is scarce, that power is reserved for others, and that success is beyond your reach. But when you release fear, your perspective changes. You begin to see that opportunities are everywhere, that you have the capacity to influence your reality, and that the universe responds to those who act with courage. Living fearlessly is a magnet for abundance because it allows you to pursue goals with clarity, focus, and determination. Fear acts like a filter, preventing blessings from entering your life. When fear is gone, life flows to you naturally. The journey to living without fear requires consistent practice. Fear will not vanish overnight. It is deeply ingrained in our survival instincts. But like any skill, fearlessness can be cultivated. Start by facing small fears daily, speaking up when you want to, taking action even when unsure, and stepping outside your comfort zone regularly. Each act of courage, no matter how small, chips away at fear's power. Gradually, you will notice that decisions become easier, opportunities become clearer, and your confidence expands. Living fearlessly also demands trust in yourself and trust in life. Fear thrives on doubt and mistrust, convincing you that you are not enough or that life is against you. By developing faith in your abilities and by believing that challenges are not threats but lessons, you transform fear into empowerment. You begin to act from a place of possibility rather than limitation. You begin to see life as a series of opportunities to grow, contribute, and excel. Consider the ripple effect of fearlessness. When you live without fear, you inspire those around you. Others see your courage and are encouraged to act boldly in their own lives. Your fearlessness becomes contagious, creating an environment where creativity, action, and growth are celebrated. This is why leaders, innovators, and visionaries stand out, not because they never feel fear, but because they refuse to let it control them. Living without fear is also intimately tied to purpose. Fear often masks itself as practicality, telling you to settle for less, to compromise your dreams, or to play small. But when you confront fear, you reconnect with your purpose. You remember why you are here, what you are capable of, and what impact you are meant to have. Fearlessness allows you to act in alignment with your highest values, to pursue goals that resonate deeply, and to live a life that is authentically yours. The rewards of living without fear are extraordinary. Success, power, and abundance are not merely external rewards, they are internal states that emerge when fear no longer limits your actions. You become more resilient, more confident, and more adaptable. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable are now opportunities for growth. Your vision expands, your influence multiplies, and your life becomes a reflection of your highest potential. Fearlessness does not eliminate difficulties, but it transforms them from obstacles into stepping stones toward greatness. In conclusion, living with no fear is not an abstract ideal. It is a practical, actionable choice. Fear is a signal, not a command. It may warn you, but it should never dictate your destiny. When you refuse to be controlled by fear, you unlock your highest potential. You gain the clarity to pursue your goals, the courage to take bold action, and the resilience to overcome setbacks. Success, power, and abundance are not distant dreams. They are natural responses to a life lived fearlessly. Step forward, take action, trust yourself. Let fear be a teacher, not a jailer. When you do, destiny responds, and your true potential unfolds before you in ways you never imagined.